Hey, it's Eamon with ipXchange coming at you with another weekly roundup. So this week we covered a few different solutions, starting with Alif Semiconductor on Monday. Then on Tuesday we had our first ProjeX interview with Isam from Chili.CHIPS.BA, which was amazing. And then Wednesday, it was Valentine's Day, so what better thing to cover than drunk driving and Asahi Kasei Microdevices solutions for alcohol detection on the breath of a driver. And then on Thursday we had an IP experience with Innatera, which is a new manufacturer of neuromorphic processors. So that was very exciting. So Monday with Alif Semiconductor. So those of you who don't know who Alif Semiconductor are, ipXchange has interviewed them a few times. We did 3 videos with them at CES. We interviewed them at Embedded World, and essentially they're all about putting high-level AI ML into the microcontroller space. So they have quite a few different devices that range from single-core microcontrollers to dual-core microcontrollers with an additional 2 application processor cores that can run Linux and stuff. But the secret with Alif is that they have ARM's Ethos U55 architecture, which is a hardware accelerator within the chip for AI applications, and basically it very, very dramatically reduces the power consumption. So in this interview, Guy was getting a demo of the AI ML app kit. One of the demos was for a bit more than keyword recognition. So this was actually proper phrase recognition. There was a large language model, natural language model built onto the device. None of this is on the cloud, and so funnily enough, it was used as a human-machine interface for a microwave. So you could tell it to defrost a pound of chicken and it would know what to do. It would understand that. And then the other demo was a facial and object type detection and recognition demo which confirmed the guy was human, which if it says so. If you want to watch the full interview, which is the second of 3 from CES with Alif, head to ipxchange.tech/AlifAppKit. Now onto Tuesday's post, which was a thorough, in-depth discussion with Isam from Chili.CHIPS.BA, and this was a ProjeX. This is the first ProjeX that we posted, and essentially what we want to do is we want to get much more of a community feel to ipXchange. We finally got the infrastructure on the website to do that. You can post your own content there, but we also want to post content that is specifically with engineers, not with companies, just chats about the technology, the problems they faced, and this one was mind-blowing. So essentially Isam was creating neural networks from scratch and running them on FPGAs, and it was it's quite an interesting workload because obviously there's many voice recognition solutions out there, but not for Bosnian, and Isam's based in Bosnia. So he wanted to train neural networks to recognize keywords in Bosnian for applications such as an elevator, lift, where you might want to say what floor you want to go on, but you have your hands full, or maybe you don't have the privilege of having hands. So it was an extremely in-depth discussion, and not what I was expecting. Originally, we had planned this to be the first ProjeX because we had helped Chili.CHIPS to discover some of the technology that they were using in their application. But Isam wasn't actually part of that selection process. So we ended up just chatting about the application itself, and yeah, head to ipxchange.tech/Isam for that project. It's a really good watch if you're into machine learning and really want to get into the nitty-gritty about how it's developed. Plenty more projects to come, and if you're listening and you think you have something really good that you want to share with our audience and community, let us know. We'd love to interview you. Now on to Wednesday, which was Valentine's Day. So I was nicely dressed up in a black shirt and a blood red tie. And hilariously, this was not planned, and maybe not hilariously because it is a very serious issue. We released an interview from CES with Asahi Kasei Microdevices, our second interview with them at CES. And the previous one was about radar sensing, millimeter wave radar sensing for safety in cars, mainly for baby or pet detection in the back. But this one was about drunk driving, which is something which probably does happen a lot on Valentine's Day. Asahi Kasei Microdevices, in conjunction with some of their partners, had developed an alcohol sensor that was positioned behind the wheel, and it can essentially detect whether the driver has been drinking, and one would hope lock down the systems on the car and stop them from driving it if they're over the limit / under the influence. So this was a fascinating interview because the sensitivity of these devices in detecting carbon dioxide and ethanol completely separately, I don't know what the magic behind the method is, but you could see there was a definite difference in the presence of just normal exhale, and then there was a simulated drunk driving, which was a bunch of hand sanitizer on someone's hands and them just kind of breathing in front of their hands towards the sensor. And there's a huge spike in ethanol detection, and this is very interesting technology. Unfortunately, because it was designed by some Asahi Kasei Microdevices partners, it wasn't revealed exactly what the components are. So what we ended up doing was creating a specific board page where you can apply to evaluate this technology in terms of a consultation. I actually did a little bit of digging, and I didn't realize that one of the first companies we ever interviewed, Sensair, was actually part of the kind of Asahi Kasei Microdevices family. So they must either use some kind of NIR LEDs or detectors within their modules, those being made by Asahi Kasei Microdevices, in order to do the detection, because as many people will know, accurate CO2 detection is done with infrared. But that's all magic that you'll have to discuss with Asahi Kasei Microdevices. So head to ipXchange.tech/drunk driving if you want to learn more. And on Thursday, we had another IP experience, this time with Innatera. So Innatera, they're spin out of a university, and essentially they're doing ultra-low power AI chips, which, I mean, you might think that that's something that we've talked about a lot on ipXchange recently, but I think I did make a comment about it in my either intro or outro to that video. But it's really, really fascinating to see analog being kind of the basis of how people are getting that low power for AI applications. They have their proprietary method. I think it's called the spiking neural processor, and essentially they've created a microcontroller that can do kind of machine learning tasks with much, much, much higher efficiency than what you'd expect from your typical digital solution that's just running it inside a conventional processor. So essentially, with Innatera's solution, it's a tiny chip. It's a couple of millimeters by a couple of millimeters, and it sits between the sensor and the rest of the system. I'm not even sure if you'd really call this a hardware accelerator, because it is its own microcontroller. But what it's doing is using its neural network to take in that sensor data and output it as an inference, like something you can actually use. And we've got a very, very interesting interview coming next Wednesday with Nigel Toon, who recently published a book called How AI Thinks. So enjoy that when it comes out. So there's this, obviously there's raw data, which, I mean, could be zeros and ones, could be a voltage, but there's no information present within that data. It requires interpretation to get something useful out of it, like a temperature threshold or a reading, or say a wake word or something. And that's where Innatera's solution performs really, really well. It's analog architecture, reduces the power, increases the speed. So when the sensor brings through the data, goes into the Innatera chip, that can be trained to recognize what it is, and then it can send that as an inference to the rest of the system. At least that's how I'm understanding it after a few days since I watched the interview. And if you'd like to learn more about Innatera's spiking neural processor, head to ipXchange.tech/InnateraT1. That's INNATERAT1. And I'm still not sure if that's a Terminator pun or not. And that's the week in electronics. Another week of a lot of CES content, and as expected, a lot of AI. And I can't stress enough that next Wednesday we will have interview with Nigel Toon on how AI thinks. It's a pretty mind-blowing interview. I've yet to read the book myself, but I thoroughly enjoyed writing up the discussion that he and Guy had. So anyway, yep, that's this week in electronics and disruptive technology. And if you've learnt anything, don't drink and drive, and have a lovely weekend. Keep designing.
Hey, where my engineers at?